Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Hey, everybody, it's Tom Foster on the World of Marketing. And today I've got a special guest, Gary Sarner. Gary, how are you? Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast with me today.
Thank you for having me, Tom. I really appreciate it.
Gary, you are in the world of radio with ROI360plus.com, right? And I met you through my good friend Alex Valencia of We Do Web Content. And you and I had a conversation recently, and I was fascinated by it. And I wanted to get you on the podcast and introduce you to all my friends and talk about radio in today's world, because today's world is consumed by internet and Google, and that's what everybody talks about. So it's really interesting to talk about radio. So tell me, first of all, radio is working. You're doing big time radio, aren't you?
We are absolutely crushing it in 18 markets around the country, with radio being the primary driver to Google.
Wow.
But these law firms.
Oh, interesting.
Well, you know what? When you really think about it and you go back 20 years, cable had fully penetrated now. You had TV, you had radio, you had cable, and lawyers, advertisers were going out there with a vanity phone number, and people would hear the ads and they would call. Well, if I were to ask you and turn this back around for just a moment and say, what is the greatest brand in the world today? What would your answer be?
Your website, your URL.
That's for each individual.
Sure. Well, the greatest brand today is Google.
Correct. And if you think about it, whether it's Google, it's Bing, it's Yahoo,
Amazon,
any of them. But what does an individual do when they need to find something or someone or some business? What do?
They Google.
They Google it.
Of course.
So all the marketing that's happening today on radio, on television, on billboards, leads everybody to one place, to Google it.
Very good.
Now, what is
interesting?
What is the hope of any advertiser, whether it's, again, radio, TV, billboards, aside from LSA, PPC, and the SEO that they do?
Yeah.
Somebody's going to do a branded search, and they're going to look for them by name. But most people don't, especially in the legal field. They are looking for a car accident attorney, a car wreck attorney, or maybe they're so narrow, right, and they say in a specific city.
Right.
So law firms specifically have to be everywhere to stand out. And what I speak to my clients about, and the prospects that I'm talking to on a daily basis, is if you don't have a brand, when that ultimate time comes that somebody unfortunately had an accident and they go to Google car accident in blank city, if you are doing radio, television, billboards, all of a sudden your Google will stand out. Hopefully, they're not clicking on the PPC, but they see that you're popping up in the SEO or in your LSA. But very interesting is when they look at their month end, where did the leads come from? Intake departments at law firms generally take the path to least resistance. And if it came through Google, it's very easy for them to say, oh, it was a Google lead, because it either came through the SEO and they called the phone number from there, or they clicked on it and they went through the website.
Right.
But if law firms go deeper and actually speak to their clients that have signed up with them, and assuming they're doing radio, television, or billboards, and they spoke to a client who's in their system, no matter what system they're using, as a Google lead, and they asked them, hey, by the way, Tom, thanks for finding our firm. And we saw that you came to us through Google. But just out of curiosity, have you ever heard us anywhere else? Oh, yeah, I hear you on the radio all the time. Have you ever seen us anywhere else? Oh, my God, yeah, you're on TV and I see your billboards. So all of it worked together, but who got the credit? Google.
Right.
Google works.
Sure.
Works well.
Well, that's where everybody ends up.
Doesn't matter what the business is.
But what you're talking about is brand marketing, your brand advertising, it's your brand exposure.
So you work with a lot of legal clients as well.
Yeah.
And people talk about the big boys in their market, whoever it might be. And let's use Morgan & Morgan as an example. It's tough to outspend Morgan & Morgan, but everybody wants to be like a Morgan & Morgan. But you know the one thing that John Morgan has done consistently for over 30 years?
Radio.
Marketing. Radio, yeah. TV, billboards.
Yeah, he does it all.
So
I'll give you another example. I just did this podcast yesterday, and this will be going out probably right before yours, which is Jason Abraham of Hupy and Abraham, Hupy.com, which is the biggest personal injury firm in the Midwest, $2 billion firm. Been a client for 15 years. We do all their web, we do all their SEO and all that, but they do radio and TV. And that's the same formula, what you're talking about. I mean, like they cover everything. They blanket everything. And that's really what we're talking about here is that, okay, sure, website covered. Let's assume that's covered. Got your SEO done, content, LSAs, you're local, you're on the map pack, all that stuff is good. People go to Google, they do a search. But your point is that they're driving around, they're listening to the radio's on, they're hearing it wherever they are, they're hearing it. And they're hearing your brand. And so if they go do the search for car accident lawyer near them or whatever, car wreck lawyer, and they see that name brand that's been talking to them, right, over the radio for the last and on TV, and that's exactly the formula that Morgan & Morgan has been doing, the exact formula that Hupy and Abraham has been doing for 30 plus years, that grew them to 2 billion, and many of your clients. That's the winning formula, especially for a personal injury firm.
Undoubtedly. And the conversations that I have with everybody is it takes two things to win. And I apologize if I offend anybody, because I'm sure there are some females out there. But it takes balls, which is money. And more important than money,
bravery,
is patience.
Yeah.
Because John Morgan didn't start his marketing campaign 30, 35 years ago, whenever he actually started, and he was a nationwide brand. It didn't happen like that.
And there's a third thing that's very important that's often neglected, which is the campaign itself.
Creative is everything.
Right? It's like, what are you communicating? If your ad is shit, if your campaign is crap, it ain't gonna work. So what is your message?
It's interesting that you bring that up, because these lawyers are advertising every day, day in, day out, with a shit ton of frequency to people that don't need them. It's not like we're selling that guitar behind you. There's a percentage of people who are going to buy a guitar today or soon. But we have no clue, other than the fact that we know that accidents are going to happen. Anywhere from 2 to 5% of the people in a market will get into some type of car accident, slip and fall, workers' comp, some type of injury where they can help.
But this is all about getting in our heads in advance of that, so that if something tragic should happen, and obviously nobody wants that to happen, but that's why those lawyers are there. And so you as a lawyer, you want to be in their heads when they make that decision.
You also need to know the market that you're in, and who do you want to target, and how do you want to target them. I'll give you an example of balls and patience, and then an absolute change.
The B&P.
The B&P, and then an absolute change that had to happen. We took a client and went into Jacksonville, Florida. And we went into Jacksonville with the same strong campaign.
Wow. That's Morgan and Morgan land.
Mm-hmm. And we went into Jacksonville, radio, television. This client does not do outdoor. And we went in strong. And after several months, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. We're like, what the hell? We fly up there and we have meetings with all the radio and TV stations. And we know that the formula has worked in 4 other markets. And all of a sudden it comes up, have you ever thought of running a local phone number? Jacksonville isn't like Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Jacksonville isn't like West Palm Beach. It's not like Fort Myers, Naples. This is South Georgia. They want to know they're dealing with a local firm.
Oh, because it was a 1-800 number?
Correct. A vanity number.
Got it. So you switched it to a local number.
So we came back to South Florida. We got in the studio. We got with the TV production people, and we changed everything to a local Jacksonville number. And within, I want to say, 7 to 10 days, we were on the air with the new creative. And all we changed was the phone number. Holy shit, guess what happened the next day?
Wow.
The phone was ringing off the hook. Google was going wild. And all of a sudden,
great pivot.
This law firm has become a force to be reckoned with in Jacksonville. This is 6 years ago.
That's good. Okay, well, good job to you for figuring that out. And good job to your client for having the patience to work through that instead of just firing you and, moving on the way most lawyers behave.
Very fortunate that prior to that, for 4 years, we had done some amazing things together for him to have the ability.
So he trusted you,
to open a new market. I've worked with Anna Jar and Levine now here in the state of Florida for 10 years.
That's good.
And
well,
I'm
that's
grateful.
good. That's great.
I work with
Well,
Alex.
that just goes to talk. That's exactly what I was talking about, is that, that's part of the messaging, is that you've got to understand your audience. You've got to understand who you're talking to. I had a podcast, actually it's going out today, with Dirk Derrick in South Carolina. He's got several offices in South Carolina, about how, he markets to his local people. It's different. And let's talk about that for a minute, because, radio, everybody assumes radio, and I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say everybody. I assume radio is like only for the big guys, the multi-million-dollar firms. But I'm thinking that, like, your strategy, the strategy that we're talking about, you got a solid website. You got a solid website. You do radio. You do TV ads. You could do this in any size market and be very successful. You could be, if you're a smart guy in a small market, you could crush it, right?
Easily.
Easier than a big market. Like you might think like, oh man, I'm so great, grateful that I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina or whatever. Like I'm thinking that's not as good as being in like, Culpeper, Virginia or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like something like more remote.
Well, small market, large market, accidents happen.
Like small market with a big highway.
Catastrophic
Lots
accidents.
of trucks.
Correct. Truck accidents. The key for any personal injury attorney out there today is to be known. And to be known is to be heard and to be seen and then to be found.
Yeah. Really.
What is the greatest form of word of mouth?
What? I give up.
The radio. Because you get to tell your story to thousands of people at a time who might need you. Now, let's say Johnny used XYZ law firm.
Yeah, like what are your kind of radio ads? Like, give me an example of them.
So I try to help our clients focus on their strengths. Where are they best? If you're a workers' comp attorney, then talk about the great work that you've done to help people. And here's the key. It's about the listener. It's not about the firm. You can sit there and pound your chest all day long. But if you haven't helped somebody and you don't explain how you help somebody, these people are going through hell. And they're afraid to pick up the phone and call an attorney. You know the number one reason why people don't call or reach out or find a personal injury attorney? The number one reason. They're afraid of the cost. Because
they're just kind of intimidated by it.
That's a whole different issue. The average education that we are speaking to is under 6th grade.
Wow.
If you speak to somebody who earns...
Wow, really?
Well, think about this. Anybody who earns $75,000 and above, okay? So we're going to call that middle class and up. They generally know somebody who knows a lawyer. They're going to go that route first.
That's true.
When you look at lower income, advertising really works. Now, one of the things I like to do is speak to lawyers about what coverage is most important for any driver to have. Do you know?
I think I used to, but I don't recall.
So uninsured motorist coverage is the most crucial coverage to have, because you have, God forbid, you get in that accident.
Hold on a second. You got to hold on a second. Somebody's at the door. We got to pause the podcast. All right. Sorry about that, Gary. We'll edit that out.
No problem.
Okay. Where were we?
Uninsured motorist.
Yes, that's right. Uninsured motorists.
So you get in your car today, I get in my car today, and every other driver in America gets in their car today. They don't anticipate anything happening. And then all of a sudden, they get hit by somebody who's uninsured. What kind of case do they have if they don't have uninsured motorist coverage? There's no attorney out there that's going to take it. So part of the radio commercials that I do, we try and educate people as well. And it doesn't matter whether it's an urban format, a Hispanic format, a rock format. You've got all kinds listening to all formats, from low income to high income. You never know. So I say, if you're going to do radio, you have to own something, whether that's 1, 2, 5, 15, 51 stations. You have to own what you're doing, and you have to have the patience to allow it to work, because it's not going to happen overnight, no matter how many stations.
What do you mean by own?
So frequency. I am very fortunate that I had 8.5 years of working with a client while I worked for Odyssey, Entercom, Lincoln Financial, Beasley Broadcast, a radio group here in South Florida. And we learned together what the best mix was to drive the most traffic, to his website and calls to the firm. So when I opened ROI360 Plus in 2021, during the pandemic, I didn't set out to be a legal marketing expert. I set out to just go get clients and build an agency that I was going to be proud of. Well, it turned out that I became a legal marketing expert in the radio world with TV involved. I then come to guys like you for website development, SEO, pay-per-click, because that's not my forte. I know how to make you look like a magician.
Okay, I like that.
So
my clients like that.
Well, they all want.
My clients like leads. That's what they like. They like good cases and good clients and good leads.
So you never know when a great case, and you know, I say great case, which is a 7-figure case, which unfortunately means somebody had some horrific accidents to get 7 figures, but they want these cases. They aren't.
Radio is another channel to get it. I mean, I guess the point here is that, here's the point. Radio is another channel. If you're not doing it, it is accessible to you. And Gary knows how to do it. And he does it very well. And he's done it for other lawyers all over the country, and small markets and big markets, very successfully. He's got a formula that works. If you want to know more about it, what's the best way, Gary, for somebody to talk to you?
So before I tell you how to reach me, let me tell you why you want to speak to a professional like me or somebody else who's an expert. if I went out and tried to speak to the insurance company about a legal case, I know enough to have a conversation, but I have no idea what the laws are. Most lawyers don't know how to negotiate with the broadcast media companies.
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
Radio sellers, TV sellers are trained to do one thing: sell the inventory we have available and move it. I, on the other hand, make sure that we buy what we want. And I have relationships at the top of the food chain at every major broadcaster in America, in every city. So when ROI360 Plus lands a client in a market that we are not in, we pick up the phone, we speak to the presidents of each respective company. We do not work with salespeople. And for those of you who are doing it on your own, if you're buying from a salesperson, you're getting hosed. Salespeople have absolutely no ability in broadcast media today to make a decision. They can say no, they cannot say yes. So I would highly recommend, whether you speak to me and my team at ROI360 Plus, or you speak with another agency somewhere in your city, make sure that they have relationships with the broadcast media that will actually save you money from buying it for yourself, and understanding that you need to have a ton of frequency. You need to be able to have more than your competition has on a specific station, radio or television, or you need to have more billboards. And maybe you can't afford the one right on the highway on I-95. Well, guess what? You can go plaster outside of the city limits into the suburbs, because people drive from the city into the suburbs. So there are so many ways to skin a cat, and marketing, it is an absolute must. And before you even think about radio or television or billboards, like you said, Tom, the greatest marketing you have is your website.
Yeah.
Have your house in order. Be working with somebody like Tom who knows how to make sure your website looks great, has all the backlinks that it needs, has the SEO that you need for your market, the keywords that you need, the pay-per-click you might do. But if you don't have that house in order, you can tell everybody who you are. And if they come to you and find a shit website where they can't find anything, and I'm going to throw this out at you. Here's the best one. You look at websites on a daily basis. What percentage of legal websites out there don't have a form fill at the top of the page when somebody gets there?
Well, many of them, of course.
Why not? That is the fastest way to capture somebody. It should be right there, ready. Who are you? Let me help you. Tell us about yourselves. What's your issue? But if you have that in order, I highly recommend that you go and brand yourself, because if you do, and you do it consistently for years and years and years, and by the way, marketing campaigns are measured in years, not months and not weeks. If you think you're going to get a response in weeks or months, don't make the investment. Go on vacation and enjoy yourself. But if you make the investment and you have the patience, it works, and it works well. And if you go to any of these legal conferences, whether it's National Trial Lawyers, whether it's Mass Torts Made Perfect, or you go to a mastermind done by Bader Scott and the 8-figure firm, guess what? You learn from people who have done it for years and years and years.
And done it big and done it well.
Done it big and done it well.
But they've had a lot of failures along the way, but they learn from their failures. You know, I mean, like, that's not everything is a rocketing success. There's tons of failures, as you pointed out.
Although I would say for people who don't give traditional media long enough to work, they just didn't give it long enough to work.
Right.
I was at
What's long enough to work?
You know what? Every market is different and it depends upon the competition. So someone in my role looks at the market and sees what the competition is doing. How do you get more for less than your competition? It's not easy, but that's why we do what we do. If a lawyer goes to a radio or TV station on their own, they're going to pay the highest rates in the market. I don't care how good a negotiator you are.
No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, like, it's definitely, you know, everybody that's listening, it's definitely worth your while to talk to Gary. He has the connections that you do not have, you would not get. And that's the good thing. So how does somebody reach out to you, Gary? And
so you could go to our website, ROI360plus.com. You could reach me at Gary at ROI360plus.com. I am all over Instagram, ROI360plus, Facebook, or the good old-fashioned way, we could speak on the phone at 954-560-6371, and I make it a point to return every call within 2 hours.
Excellent. Very good. Well, Gary, I appreciate you, man. And I so enjoyed our conversation today. And is there anything that else you'd like to offer?
I just want to say thank you to you, Tom, for having me on. It's always a pleasure to speak with people who are as knowledgeable and care as much as I do, because that is another point that we did not talk about. There's a lot of people out there that really don't give a shit. And that's a shame.
Well, you're right. There's a lot of people that are just pretending in this.
We all want to make money, but it's not always about the almighty dollar.
Right.
It's really about making a difference. And the more attorneys I speak to, the more I learn what they do is to really make a difference in their communities. And that matters. And I love to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I've got some special programs that I put together with our partners that really tie into the community in a way that you've never, ever dreamed of.
Well, that'd be cool, man. That's great.
Well,
I appreciate you, Gary. It's great to know you. I look forward to working with you. And of course, if I can help any of your clients out, I'd love to be able to do that. And anybody that's listening to this, and if you can think of any friends that are considering radio, or you're thinking about it, you should talk to Gary. And you got his contact information. Gary, thank you so much. You have a great day. Everybody have a wonderful afternoon. This has been Tom Foster and Gary Sarner on the World of Marketing. You take care.
thank you, Tom.